Let's wrap up our Stars defenseman season grades with a couple of young guns in Nils Lundkvist and Lian Bichsel, and then the grizzled vets, Alex Petrovich and Brendan Smith.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. This will be the second to last episode of our Dallas Stars 2024-25 season grades. I decided I will not include the goaltenders in today's show. We will give them their own separate special episode because they deserve it. But today we're going to finish out the Stars defensemen, Nils Lundkvist and Lian Bichsel, two young guns. And then, of course, Alex Petrovich. What a season he had. And Brendan Smith, who was in and out of the lineup throughout the regular season. Almost forgettable as well. I mean, no disrespect to that, but we did not see a lot of Brendan Smith this past season. So let's go ahead and jump into things. As always, I'll give my letter grade at the end of each segment for Lundkvist and Bichsel, and then we decided to pair up Petrovich and Brendan Smith here. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. So we begin with Nils Lundkvist because he had a really strong 39 games to begin the regular season. Unfortunately, he went down with a shoulder injury. He was placed on the IR on January 29th and then underwent surgery on February 1st. Believe it or not, he was actually cleared a couple of days before, I want to say, the Game 5 against Edmonton. So there was a possibility or potential for him to actually rejoin the Stars if that series went longer, or they eventually got to the Stanley Cup final, believe it or not, because he was cleared on May 31st. At least that's what it says here on Puckpedia. So he had 39 regular season games. He had 0 goals, 5 assists, and 5 points. Of course, he did not participate in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And he just really improved his game from the start. And I thought you could see it right off the bat to start the season. He just looked more comfortable in his own skin. He looked more comfortable with the puck on his stick, especially in the defensive zone. And I'm really, really excited to see where Glenn Golitzin sees Lundkvist and how maybe he can continue to fill out his role on this Dallas Stars blue line, because it looks like he's going to have the opportunity to play some heavy minutes or at least get to play potentially night in and night out. But you could certainly see he has really improved in the defensive zone, especially his body awareness. I mentioned this a lot throughout the regular season. He just seemed to be in the right spot and had his body in the right position to make plays defensively. Number one, he was really, really improved in that area. And we all know what he can do with a puck on his stick, but it looked like he was consciously trying to become a better defender, right? He was making that effort to really round out his defensive game. And I thought he did an excellent job of improving in that area. He only had 5 assists, which was a bit underwhelming because we all know what he can provide offensively. He had 19 points the season prior in 59 games. Like, he has that in his game. And for him to take that next step, he needs to be offensive. He needs to produce because it's in there. Also, he doesn't have the opportunity, and he won't next year for a large chunk of it, just depending on health of other guys like Miro and Harley. But he did have a lot more time on the power play a couple of years ago. He got more time in that area. He's certainly not going to rack up those amount of minutes here next season, but I think he can produce a bit more at 5-on-5. He averaged 15 minutes and 1 second in those 39 games, which was the second highest of his career. The previous high was actually in 22-23. So the first year under DeBoer in those 60 games, he had 16 minutes in 19 seconds. Look, the Stars as well were a bit deeper on the back end this past season than they had been in maybe some previous years. Not saying quality, but they just had more bodies. So he didn't have to play as much. Penalties, I wrote here, still a bit of an issue at points. He was healthy scratch during some stretches of this past regular season. It wasn't as consistent, but there was some parts where he was taking too many penalties defending number one. And that still, I think, is part of the learning curve for Nils Lundkvist. You also have to factor in he's just 24 years of age. Like, he's really, really young. And if he can continue to get bigger and stronger, they have him here listed 6 foot, 192 pounds. But from this past year coming into 24-25, there was obvious improvements in his game. I love to look at some of his 5-on-5 numbers. I went and took a look at his 5-on-5 numbers basically from the start of the season to when he went down. He was positive in shot differential. This is via natural hat trick. When he was on the ice, 289 shots for, 263 against. He was positive goals for at 5-on-5, 19-16. You can look at scoring chances as well. Had some really good underlying numbers. You looked at his expected goals percentage at 5-on-5 was rather high. He was 7th among defensemen. So there was a lot of good stuff from Nils Lundkvist this past season. And I think if he can make the same jump into next season, like the Stars could have somebody there. And let's call spade a spade too. I don't think Pete DeBoer was ever a huge fan of Nils Lundkvist. After last season at this point, I was thinking there's no way he's going to come back based off sort of how he's been treated here recently. His defensive rating, this is via Hockey Stat Cards, plus 0.7. His offensive rating was actually down minus 2.4. He played his most amount of minutes with Esa Lindell. He played a total of 333 minutes. That pairing was all right. Their expected goals for was actually rather high at 13.8. That was third among pairings that played at least 150 minutes with the Dallas Stars. This is from moneypuck.com. Their expected goals against was 14.5. That was third highest. But, they played a hefty amount of minutes together. They weren't a terrible pairing. And of course, the Stars were kind of workshopping some things throughout the season. But all in all, a really strong season from Nils Lundkvist. Unfortunately, where the real test was going to be for Nils was the Stanley Cup playoffs. And that's why it stinks that we didn't get to see him because the year prior, he played 3 shifts a period. He was lucky to get over 6 minutes. Remember that when they were just rotating guys because they just didn't trust him. And there was some weaknesses there. You could see the game was a bit too fast for him at that part of the year, and that was going to be the real test. And I'm really frustrated that we almost got robbed of that experience just because of the shoulder surgery. But I gave him a B+ for this past season. I thought it was a really strong season and something to build off of. Hopefully we can see it in a full 82 game stretch, and it looks like he may play alongside Lian Bichsel, so that could be a really curious pairing. We have the big Swiss guy who we'll get to in a bit, and then Nils is sort of your puck mover. That could be a really good pairing for Dallas, and I think it'll be fascinating to watch how it all sort of unravels here in training camp with Lundkvist and see if he makes a jump. Also, he's coming off of surgery, so there's going to be some rust, I imagine, and until he can get back to 100%. But he was cleared, like I said, on May 31st. So hopefully that doesn't impact his off season very much, because I think year in and year out, you can have criticisms of Lundkvist, but I think he's improving every year. I feel like we've seen that here in Dallas, and I think a B+ is fair, maybe closer to a B for what we saw. If he can put together full 82, playing alongside Bichsel or Lindell, whoever it may be, I think you can see a career year upcoming for Lundkvist. But I give him a B+ for 24-25. Stars, of course, have re-signed him. He'll be back for another year, and we'll see how it all transpires. But that's where I fall on Nils Lundkvist for this past season. Now let's move on to Lian Bichsel, who popped up in December, and then he popped up in January and played valiantly all the way to the end of this season. Bichsel, the big Swiss man, up next year on Locked On Stars. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you just want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. I'm actually going to Seattle at the end of the month. The Texas Rangers are going to be in Seattle, one of the ballparks I still have to check out at T-Mobile Park. I've already hopped on Gametime, and I'm already perusing the deals. I'm going to continue to look until we get closer, and then boom, I'm going to jump on some tickets. It is fantastic. Last-minute tickets, you get zone deals. As they said there, clear seat views. You can see the view from your seat before you buy it. I've never been there. I don't want to get blocked out by something if there is. So that's a great part about Gametime. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets. Lowest price guaranteed. Lian Bichsel. Boy, is he a lot of fun to watch. I just loved his game so much from the moment he got called up. If you recall, we were hoping he would maybe make the opening night roster. That wasn't the case. He went down to the AHL, continued to improve, continued to progress, and then the Stars ran into some trouble, so he had an opportunity to get called up. The first stretch of games was in December, right to about July or January 1st, the new year. And then Miro went down, of course, and then he was brought up at the end of January, and he never looked back and just continued to get better. Played in 38 games this past season. He had 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 points. Played in 18 playoff games, 0 goals, 1 assist, and 1 point. He played the majority of the regular season with Matt Dumba. Actually played a heavy amount of minutes with Mr. Dumba. He played 285 minutes. That was his partner really for the entire regular season. And yeah, their numbers weren't great. 44.8% expected goals percentage. That was second worst among pairings. His expected goals for was down here at 11.1. That was fourth worst. Expected goals against, as you can imagine, wasn't great, about middle of the pack at 13.7. But then he paired up with Alex Petrovich, and they just became a really strong bottom pair for Dallas because they didn't have to play in some of those high leverage situations. And arguably one of the most successful pairings the Stars had throughout the postseason. He actually led the team with 155 hits in the regular season and 75 hits in the playoffs, which says a lot because he played 38 games and he led the team in hits. Jamie Benn was the second closest. There was some interesting stuff I found as well. I went to just see kind of where he ranked among top hit leaders this past year. So I looked at the months from January 20th to the end of the regular season because that's when he got called up and played the rest of the year. He was 9th in the NHL with 129 hits. And we saw that, like a bruiser, not afraid to stick up for his teammates. He had a couple of fights in there. Him and Dumba were some bruisers. And I really enjoyed watching them together. I touched on this with Dumba the other day on another episode that, I think Dumba was a great partner for Bichsel in some ways because Dumba wasn't going to let anything happen to him. He was going to stick up for his young teammate. And Bichsel wasn't afraid to mix it up as well. Something I found really, really interesting going back and just looking at some of the more details of Bichsel. So he only averaged 11 minutes and 47 seconds during the playoffs. That was the least of all D-man, even less than Alex Petrovich. And look, they may not be, I guess, a giant surprise, but to me, it kind of was just because I thought Bichsel was really good and played really well for Dallas. And yeah, maybe he wasn't going in these high leverage moments, but I think it's a damn shame. I'll just say it. I think it's a travesty that he only played 11 minutes and 40 seconds. That was his average during the postseason. I don't think he should be the D-man playing the least out of some others. Like you look at Lyubushkin, who played over 17 minutes. Why would you not have Bichsel take on some more minutes? I mean, it's not a lot, like 2 or 3 minutes. And you could take away some of those minutes from Lyubushkin, who obviously was maybe showing some signs of just being tired and being overworked. I just think that was just looking back at it, and maybe this is just looking at it on the surface level, but I think that's a mistake by the Stars coaching staff. Bichsel should have played a bit more. And if Petrovic was playing over 13 minutes, I think Bichsel should be in that area for how he did. But we get it. Big, brawny, physical defenseman. And I just I get giddy thinking about what he could potentially become just because of his size, 6'7", 231. He looked like he started to figure some things out. He had his rookie moments. Let's be fair. There was some moments where he looked silly at points. He was maybe over anticipating, and he would get walked. And there was that learning curve. But it was his rookie year, right? It was his first stint in the show, and you have to go through some of those mistakes to learn. And I think he went through them and was just solid, just super, super solid for Dallas come playoff time. Just really enjoyed watching him. I was high on him from the beginning of the season. I said, if he gets called up December, January, that's great for Dallas. And we talked about it with Sam Nessler. Remember when he would come on and we'd chat with him and about the potential of maybe sending Bichsel down when maybe Dumba or Miro would come back. And look, just straight up, he's one of the best 6 defensemen on the Dallas Stars. They needed him. They need that type of game, and Bichsel brings it. And Bichsel is the type of player you want, a strong, physical guy that brings the physical presence we're all looking for Dallas to sort of grow into and improve on. Bichel's the type of player you want over a guy like Dumba, because Bichsel still has the offensive skill set to make plays. He's mobile. I always was really praised. I always praised his ability along the walls because he's big. He really improved in that area, some of those small areas. Again, wasn't perfect at all points throughout the season, but a strong campaign for Bichsel. And I gave him an A, maybe a bit high, but I just think for what we got out of him in the postseason as well, he mixed it up. I just big, strong, brawny. I just think some really fantastic stuff from Bichsel, and some of his underlying numbers were awful too. I'll give you his hockey stat card as well, because those are always interesting to look at. But just some really solid stuff from Bichsel this past season. So his offensive rating this past regular season was minus 0.8. His defensive rating was minus 3.6. And look, I think you have to take that with a bit of grain of salt too. Like, he was playing with Matt Dumba, who we all know was probably not a great partner for him. And once Petrovic got in there, I thought they were really solid. I'm actually curious to see his playoff rating. We'll have to take a look at that. Maybe there's some improvement, and we can get a better idea in this postseason. Yeah, much better. Minus 1.4 offensive rating. His defensive rating was minus 0.4. So there was a considerable amount of improvement from the regular season to the postseason, and that's basically where the switch came with pairing Bichsel with Petrovic. So I think that's a great sign. You pair him with somebody that is frankly good, and you'll get some more out of it. So I give him an A. Maybe he should be closer to about a B plus, like Lundkvist, but I'm going to give him an A. I think he was something different, and he was something the Stars really needed this past season, and he did an admirable job for the Dallas Stars. So there we go. Finish off the young guns here on the blue line with Lundkvist and Bichsel. Let's wrap up with a pair of grizzled vets. We got Petrovich and Smith. Won't spend a ton of time on these two, but we need to give them some praise, especially Petrovich. We'll do that in just a moment. Alex Petrovich, he did it again, Stars fans. Spent pretty much the entire year in the AHL. 33-year-old defenseman. He's 6'5", 207. Played 5 games during the regular season. No points, but he played 17 out of the 18 games in the Stanley Cup playoffs. He had a goal, an assist, and 2 points. He had that goal that was a bit controversial where he kicked it in, which he did not. Hellebuyck knocked it in. Plain and simple, period. Okay, get over yourself, Winnipeg Jets fans. But Petrovich did it again. I don't know what else you could say about Petrovich. We talked about it ad nauseum after last season. He just shows up, and he's sort of like Joel Hanley, right? You just know what you're going to get out of him. He moves the puck well. He moves really well, and it's just someone you don't have to worry about. I feel like every time he's on it wasn't somebody that you had to worry about. That pairing of Bichsel Petrovich was the least of your worries in a lot of ways. They got some more favorable matchups, of course, but they won some of those. And Petrovich, again, just incredible. Just coming in after playing, again, 5 games in the regular season, and he just doesn't miss a beat. It's not too big for him, which shouldn't come as much of a surprise. Like, he's played over 250 games in the NHL between Florida and Edmonton. Like, he's been around the block. And I think next year he has a shot to maybe the 7th defenseman or play regularly. And maybe he deserves a shot. I don't know. Petrovich's an A for me. I think that's pretty simple. That's just simple for what he did here during the postseason. If you are curious about some of his numbers around defensemen for the Stars at 5-on-5 during the playoffs, I would love to look at some stuff. His goals for percentage was 45. That was 3rd behind Bichsel and Harley. At 5-on-5, this is actually some praise to Bichsel for what he did during the playoffs too. His expected goals for Petrovich was 4th, 10.3. And these are cumulative, by the way. So you have like Miro's last, but he only played 8 games. His expected goals against Petrovich, 7.1. Like, that is really strong stuff. And Bichsel's right there too, 6.86. Like, from your bottom pairing, I thought they over-exceeded expectations. Expected goals for percentage, Petrovich and Bichsel were actually the 2 top for Dallas in the postseason at 5-on-5. I think that sort of just states the case right there about what they were able to do. So, I think Bichsel and Petrovich both get A's for me for this past season. Now Brendan Smith, look, we sort of understood what this signing was going to be. He played in 32 regular season games. He had a goal, 5 assists, and 6 points. He played a couple games up front for Dallas. Just sort of a Swiss Army knife. He's 36 years of age. He was just a guy that, from what we hear, was like a consummate professional too. We never heard anything about Brendan Smith. We heard throughout the year, like, he's on the ice early, just an awesome teammate, and stepped up and made plays, or at least, stepped up and took control, and made some starts here and there, depending on injuries, or just need to give some guys some rest. And Smith would just plop in and kind of, give you some minutes. There was mistakes, no doubt about it. But when you talk about players like Brendan Smith, you just need them to make some starts here and there, get in the lineup, give some guys a day off here and there. I give Smith, like, I think a C is fair. It's almost just like, you were there, right? I think a C is fair for what he did. It's not like he exceeded expectations, or he was a disappointment by any means. I think he kind of falls in the category of it is what it is with Brendan Smith. I'll give him a C for his efforts this past season. But he only played 388 minutes. It was the least of his career in a while. He played 820 minutes back-to-back seasons in New Jersey. But of course, the Stars just had some more depth. I mean, if they don't sign Lyubushkin and Dumba, Smith could have played a lot more this past season. But there was just too many bodies in front of him, and there just really wasn't a role for him other than give some guys some rest, or if the Stars ran into some injury issues, which they did, he needed to step in. So I'll give Smith a C, and that'll wrap up our Dallas Stars defenseman season grades here for 2024-25. I appreciate all of you that are tuning into these. I know these aren't always the most exciting, but I do enjoy doing some deep dives and can find some interesting stats here and there. I enjoy doing these for myself as well, just to kind of put a wrap on the season. And let's face it, there's not a ton of new news out there to break down. But there was something announced today. I might as well jump into that a bit. Jeff Skinner, by the way, just signed with the Sharks not too long ago. So I know Stars fans are maybe interested in that, but it's a pretty good deal for Jeff Skinner. It was a 1-year deal. I'm trying to find the exact number on the contract. I'd be curious. Let's see when I scroll through here. $3 million. Yeah, it's a good signing. Skinner, 1 year, $3 million. So they were able to. So the Sharks made some interesting moves this offseason. Anyways, the Stars did hire another assistant coach. It's David Pelletier. I hope I'm saying that right. Assistant coach David Pelletier. He was actually an assistant coach with the Edmonton Oilers alongside Glenn Gulletson in Edmonton. So the Quebec native had a highly decorated career in figure skating, has spent the last 11 years working with the Edmonton Oilers as the club's skating coach. He'll sort of be the eye in the sky coach for Dallas. So he'll join Gulletson's coaching staff. For those of you that are curious, here is a bit of a background. He will begin his first season as the NHL assistant coach in his new role with the Stars and serve as the team's eye in the sky during Stars games. Prior to working with the Oilers, had a highly decorated career in figure skating, 3-time Canadian champion, world champion, and Grand Prix final champion. Captured Olympic gold medal in figure skating at the 2002 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City. It was the first gold medal in Paris figure skating. Canada's first gold medal in pairs, figure skating in 42 years. So he's actually also in the Canadian Olympic Hall of Fame, the Skate Canada Hall of Fame. So, welcome, David, to the Stars coaching staff for next season. So that was mentioned today. Might as well get that out there as well. All righty, that will do it for this week of Locked On Stars. Want to thank everybody, as always, for hopping on here and giving us a lesson. We know you have a lot of choices and appreciate you making us a part of your day. Have a wonderful weekend, Stars fans. We'll be back. By the way, next week, we're starting to shift in here on our network. We're doing 3 days a week just because the news is much lighter. But I do have a couple more episodes I have to make up for y'all. So I may end up putting out an episode every day. Who knows? But we're going to start kind of switching into that for a couple of months until we really start to ramp things back up in about September. So just wanted to give y'all a heads up about that as well. But please be sure to subscribe, comment below your letter grades for Lundkvist, Bichsel, Petrovich, and Smith. As I said earlier, we're going to do our own separate episode on Ottinger and DeSmith. They deserve it. We'll give the goaltender shine some light. Hit the notification bell. Never miss an episode of Locked On Stars. Thank you as always. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you next week. So long, Stars fans.